Hello, welcome to a special episode, once again, of Magnus Aevum. I'm joined today with Logan, who will be
Hello.
reprising his consistent role as Adret for this special little episode. We're going to title this Northward Bound. This episode will take place between episodes 21 and episodes 23, kind of giving a background as to where Adret has been for so long. Part of it being the time skip itself, when we advance things 5 years, and the time in which misfortune on a mountain and blizzards have struck Lamel, Anna, and Effie. To get that in context, we have that all together. We're going to go ahead and start with Adret entering the king's chambers when Albert is still upon the throne. For counsel, it has been brought for special request. What is known thus far is a simple letter that was given to Adret back when he was at Lamel's. It was a letter asking him to take charge, or at least advise in regards to an expedition that Albert himself was planning. Upon entry into the chambers, finds that Albert himself is alone. No other individuals, even guards, are not present, though they are standing, of course, outside the main doors of the council chamber. Laid and strewn about a series of different tables are books, scrolls, letters, pieces of items that are in various forms of disarray, some of them covered ever so slightly by random bits of paper, and just excess of a man deep in investigation, going from task to task, connecting dots. Nearby is a board that he has apparently had brought in, simple piece of timber, where he has tacked on different images and locations and various ledgers to guide his research, it seems. It seems very disorganized for Albert, to the point of possibly even an indication of madness. This is the kind of scene that is meant for Albert, or for Adret as he walks in. Sorry, there's too many A's.
Hey.
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 So yes, as you walk in, this is the kind of scene you find. At least your friend, I guess, would be a good way of putting it these days. Howdy.
Would it be like evening or afternoon or?
Midday makes sense, yeah.
Right.
Early afternoon.
Good afternoon, Albert. Seems you've been doing a lot of planning.
One moment. I'll probably lose my thoughts if I continue. It kind of flips through some pages rapidly in a book, and then tears a page out of it and begins walking over to the board.
That bugs me so much.
As you notice, there's actually a couple other books with similar conditions that have been befallen their poor pages. This is one of the ones I was looking for. And he takes a bit of string and ties it around the notch that's holding the page up and starts connecting it to two others. It's a treatise on crystalline forms and the conduits that they can provide. So, yes, sorry. I believe I have it together now. My friend, as he kind of makes his way to the table, finally stretching out his back enough, kind of getting himself maybe in a more presentable way, realizing he probably shouldn't look like a disheveled man holed up in a room. Pulls out a chair and sits. I would offer to pull it out, but I'm fairly certain your weight exceeds my strength. Please sit.
Of course. And Adret grabs a chair and sits down.
You see, I have been working rather hard on an idea I have. I believe you're in receipt of my letter, yes?
Yes, I received it.
Good. should we cut formalities? Dear friend, would you be so kind as to indulge an old man in his curiosities? Would you accept such a task?
I would hear it, yes.
I feel there is a few things I must attend to that my life has not fully solved. You see, I was a spry man once. The old bones, of course, may carry muscles that have atrophied, but they used to be strong and lithe, capable of running on battlefields and claiming glory for the kingdom. In those days, the enemy was what we now just reference as the Northern Territories, but it was a sprawling kingdom once. Zillital once knew a lifestyle similar to ours in general prosperity, although we are more advanced. That comes with time, of course. It still found its way to have a balance. And though necessity did take that from them and conflict became inevitable, I find there are certain shames that either I myself have taken on or my family and my kin that, though probably cannot be remedied, could at least be understood better by, or at least our learned, for preservation.
I understand. And you wish to find that up north.
Uh, yes, it unfortunately, one way or another, would require going and investigating matters of history, architecture, engineering, and, of course, uh, many facets of science, including spiritual detections and their presences. One of my first thoughts was the crystal caves that lie near Marfen. Marfen is old-ish, used to be a relatively prosperous city in its own right. And these days, it's collapsed mostly to a mining town and mirrors very much the desperation of some of the people we have not treated as well as we could have. This is where I would have you start.
I am more than willing. When would you have me go out?
Preparations would need to be made. A few months, of course. You'll have to get some contacts, get a few would be required individuals, and it will be necessary, unfortunately, to involve aspects of the Ministry of War, given its support being official and all, at least within the clan, which means protection is required. That part I would arrange myself for you. However, I will need you to acquire some of the research team. You can handpick them, of course. I do not have the connections I once did with individual personalities, but more bodies of research. So make sure you trust some of those you keep as close in the research. But you will need a team bigger than your most likely level of trust would stretch.
Hmm. Well, at first a few individuals do come to mind, but I'm sure I can find handfuls if I need to.
Good, good. I have a stipend amount that has been put aside in my personal coffers and a cash the clan itself is lending. And the general expenses will be paid to establish it. And of course, I will do everything I can to make sure the individuals on the actual expedition are paid appropriately to their required duties. But I will need you to assess that and administrate it. Is this within your capacity?
Yes, I am able.
Good. Here's a writ from my family's collections and accounts. It will give you just general permissions through the Ministry of Law to extract what you need from the coffers and banks. Otherwise, you will be necessary to acquire shelters, transport, and provision.
I understand.
You will be taking probably close to 50 people, so please be prepared in that level. Since this seems to be a formality to you, and you've already walked in with a decision in mind, perhaps we could discuss the research I have come across.
I would love to. Go ahead.
He reaches over and drags like two of the books that are on a small stack, a few other pages, and he hands you a small, like, what was a haphazard collection that he kind of quickly organizes a little bit and hands over to you. And it's similar to some of the research you've already done in the Socio-Arcanum, but it's older, so it's got less backing behind it. It's less concise and definitely lacks gaps in knowledge, or sorry, possesses gaps in knowledge. It talks about modal creation that spirits would do, such as when an individual creates an incantation of any kind or an invocation. There's a certain level of reconstruction that occurs from the spiritual plane to the physical plane, whereby the spirits come to that location via whatever component nature of the spell is. We interpret that all the time as like verbal, somatic, and such.
Okay.
There's some material stuff like that. In this case, it's suggesting that these creatures will sit on the other side, and when they're attracted to it, they somehow construct themselves a physical form to manifest across the barrier, if you will, between the two planes of existence. And we only see the construct, if you will, is what it kind of suggests, and whoever wrote it. What's curious about the older form of the research is it's very dogmatic. Like when you start talking about things that are clerical in nature or might have references to like the paladin's abilities or maybe somehow attributed to Gabor, it starts talking about celestial bodies and this idea that there are two different spiritual selves. We're trapped in a physical form that contains a spiritual form, and these beings no longer contain that requirement. So to come here, they have to somehow inhabit a vessel, which is somehow divinely provided. So
it's very interesting.
It gets a little odd when you start talking about divine style magic. Divination is the weirdest of them because it creates tethers where it essentially is like whispering across the planes, and then the spirits talk at speed of thought across the distances and communicate and then whisper it back to the caster what the spirits observed from one side. So they're kind of like, if you were to imagine a pool of water as a looking glass, and it shows your reflection, right? But if you were beneath the water and you looked up, whatever you were looking at would be distorted. So the spirits never are fully accurate because they can never see a clear enough picture. Bless you.
Sneeze. Thank you.
Yeah, you're good. So when that kind of magic occurs, it distorts the message as they're whispering it across the barriers of existence, which is why augury and other forms of divination magic have inaccuracies.
Yeah.
So it presupposes that if a divine intervention occurs where the accuracy is perfect, then it's like a praise to Gabor and becomes like some sort of self-grandizing prayer that you understand pretty well, but it depends how Adret attributes his interactions with Sanitas. Because if he doesn't view Sanitas as like this grand divine being that is guiding everything and the spirits are just small manifestations of the god, then you would view this very differently. So that would be a conflict of just general ideas, and it would become an intellectual problem that we don't need to get into because we'll be here a very long time for very little benefit.
Yeah.
Just kind of the stuff the papers are going over. But the important part is the page that he ripped out in regards to crystal resonancing. It the book talks about how crystalline structures are used in Magitech creation because they are uniquely capable of providing perfect mathematical geometry. Like if you were to measure certain aspects of any one crystal, they all have properties that add up evenly. And therefore, when a spirit constructs itself within them, it acts as a container or possibly a cage in some cases, viewpoint barring, of course.
Okay.
But they view it as they're giving a home to the spirit that it doesn't have to construct that physical body that normally their moat it would create. So in this case, the crystal is acting as the body for them, and they don't take a true form, which is why lightning in a bottle, if it's a crystal bottle, just looks like electricity bounced around instead of a spirit of some kind. And it probably explains why most casters in Balsan never physically see spirits. They're never constructing bodies to be seen.
Okay.
Albrecht's interest in this, he kind of will explain, is that the mines that are there have been mining out purified, perfect crystals for a very, very long time. And the religion of Zillertal, which was also its political might, was these 8 rights. It's WRIGHT.
Mm-hmm.
And the rights themselves were like beings that we're seeing as like avatars would be of a god, but they themselves were a divine being as well. It's kind of like it divided itself to become 8 pieces that are semi-mortal. They could be
Right.
killed, but they would never die on their own. And their power was heavily finite from what Balsan research suggests. The crystals matter because these 8 rights were capable of manifesting spirits similar to how your people would manifest spirits, and the crystals themselves would be used as barter and trade with the spirits to essentially pay them for tasks and things like that. So the spirits would maintain their bodies however they wanted to, and the crystals would then dissolve and presumably appear in the spiritual plane as food for them.
Hmm.
But additionally, they also use the crystals to give them homes. But there was like elaborate constructions, like literally carving pieces out of crystal to make small cities and stuff that the spirit could live in for a time, or multiple spirits would live in, providing some sort of benefit, but also creating a beacon. So, like if you wanted to make a lighthouse, you could make this place and invite certain kinds of spirits that would naturally radiate light to live there, and their natural existence would just give off the light for a lighthouse
That's
kind of
pretty.
thing.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
So that's kind of what he's looking into, and he thinks the brute force way Balstan's been creating Magitech is requiring far too much engineering and science, when it seems Zillertal could do this without all the mechanics to force the reactions that they have. They have advanced it in the sense of creating things like electricity. They don't have things like magic forges. Magic items are very specific in Balsan. They're
Mhm.
all machine constructions. These rights supposedly can make things that were just pure magical objects, such as a sword that may manifest a full sentience because the spirit lives in it forever because you gave it a home inside the sword. And it would then have magical properties that would never go away.
All right.
So he's very curious about stuff like this. Um, Curious how Adret responds to any of this.
So as he's looking at this, he also definitely shows an interest, especially because from what he's observed so far in his time away from home, in Balsan it seems a lot of these constructions that utilize spirits kind of utilize them against the spirit's will. Whereas this research suggests, as you put it, essentially giving spirits a home where they can, flourish and thrive and everything the way they normally do, and then we benefit off of that. And that's something that Adret would definitely be interested in. So he's kind of looking at these notes, adding in um, commentary every now and again to see what he might have certain takes. Nothing like I could specifically list, but he might have like certain takes on different things, and then kind of discussing with Albrecht.
Okay. So this probably exchanges and in depth goes on for hours at some point or another. One of the guards will kind of knock on the door. Sir, it is dinner time. I can bring it to you and your guest if you wish, or if you wish to meet your uh, granddaughter and her family. They are in the parlor at the moment. And he just kind of waits, and Albrecht realizes that he's probably way over stepped into this. I believe taking dinner in the parlor may be advised. Adret, would you like to join us?
If I am welcome, I will certainly join.
Benefits of being the king. If I ask, they don't say anything. It's weird. It's as if they can't think for themselves as he just stares at the guard. Let us be on our way. And he clops through the castle with air quotes. And essentially ends up in the parlor. You see the woman you saw a long time ago that was in the house that was taking care of Anna from some time ago that was in Priya's house is actually her Priya's apprentice is Albrecht's granddaughter. And she kind of just sees what's going on and sees that you come in and immediately thinks out loud, Granddad, you did not bring work home. Come now. You're supposed to have dinner. Adret, I do understand the need for research and things like that, but there will be no discussions at the table about such things. Am I
Understood.
clear?
I will make sure I'm not intrusion here.
Oh, you're never an intrusion. He's the problem. I am not. I've spent many years looking into this. Yes, and you can spend many minutes playing with your great-granddaughter and grandson and spending time with me. Ah, that would be ideal. What are we having? It is a lamb stew. I hope this is your liking, Adret.
Oh, I do not mind anything. I'm the guest here. Thank you.
So you end up having a nice little dinner, and a couple of weeks later, there's a few people that you've had a chance to talk with that are just functionary style things that you would have to. And you receive a message from a soldier that just comes up to you. Missive, sir. Just
takes the
two-hand
missive
hands.
and then thank you.
And then just leaves. Opening it, it's basically a notice of who will be joining you from the Ministry of War side.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're skimming the names, you recognize two very rapidly. And I don't know how you're going to feel about it, but that's okay. You may not remember the names because it's been so long. Did I just close that? One second.
Oh boy.
Of course, there's going to be technical difficulties. Why wouldn't there be?
Yeah, there always is.
All right. There's going to be a thing. I went too far. Here we are. I'm going to sing a bad song. How's that? That's yeah. Anyway, so you take a good look at it, and it's Liza and Sarah TOGG Zulik. I don't know if you recall the names.
Are those the android people?
Yeah, one of them shot you in the face.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I recognize that.
There are two others that are there as well in that listing. One is Agora, same middle last name, and Natil. All four are female names as far as you can recognize.
Can you spell that out for me?
Yeah, sure. The first one is ING.
ING.
ORA.
All right.
The second one
Hold up one
is.
moment.
Oh, go ahead.
All right, I'm good.
The second one is NA.
A
THIL.
H I L.
I know you would want to say Thil, but it's Till. The H is silent.
Gotcha. I am a note taker. Okay, I'm ready.
I figured that's fine. Most of the other names that are on there aren't really ones that strike you all that much.
I mean, one of them certainly struck me with a gun.
Well, hey, you basically assume based on the ranks that they're listing in there, all four of the women are Tesseras by rank. They're low grade Tesseras, but they are still Tesseras. There is a single Oster going with, but you have no idea who they are. And if you want the name on that one, I can give it because you probably want it.
All right. Yep. Let me just write some extra things here. Do-do. Do-do. All right. Ready to take notes.
Okay. It is Rom Lepis.
All right. How is that one spelled? ROM?
RUOME.
RUOME. And I know how to spell Lepis.
But it's pronounced like it's alcohol.
Rum.
Just
Got
dragging
it.
the U out. Rom Lepis. That is your Oster.
Oster, yep. All right.
Otherwise, everybody seems to be like functionaries, and you can tell by their ranks they're so low on the things they're basically being sent as probably guards and standard soldiers and things like that. Additional in the missive, it does refer to a barracks that's near Marfen. The barracks has no special name to it or anything like that. It's just in one of the city districts, and that's where they're going to be stationed once they arrive. But they will be taking orders from the expedition leader, which is you, until other orders are given.
Okay.
They do ask that you provide 2 heavy stock wagons for the trip up, 1 for gear and supplies, and 1 for maintenance.
All right.
You're not too sure what that means, but it's there.
All right. And I do recall from the last session I was a part of, I had a 250,000 gold stipend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I already subtracted a bit from that. How much would those wagons cost?
So I forgot the exact cost of when I did this before, because if you do the heavy horses, like when Lamel and Anna and Effie went north, they took 6 wagons pulled by 10 total horses. I think it amounted to about 11,000.
11,000. All right. Let me do some math here because I suck, so I'm using a calculator.
That's fine. I might be ever so slightly off from it, but it's fine with me if I mess up. It's on
We
me.
have a bunch of money from the king. It does not matter.
Yeah, the point is you have money.
So that's 238,980 left.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Sounds good to me. Oh, that did not paste in the right format. That is massive. All right, there we go. So, yep, carts or wagons are now accounted for.
Okay. Well, that's good. So a few things that are going to be generally requested by the research team is like a portable alchemy lab, and there's basically an engineer's version and a smith's version. They all cost the same. The smith's one's really actually a Magitech connection bench, so it's for building Magitech. For the portable version, they'll all cost the exact same, which I think is 2,500 a piece. So that's 7,500 as well.
7,500. All right. So 2, 3, 8, 9, 8, 0, minus 7500. Okay. It's deciding to be a dick, so. All right, calculator it is.
There you go.
Tried using just typing it in on Google and it didn't want to work. So yeah, 7,500. Do do do. Um. Okay, it's having me manually type it. This is awesome.
On the bright side, you could always review the episode if you had to.
Yeah, I got it though. So 231390.
And for those that are watching us, yeah, we're doing some logistics things as basically Logan has to figure out how to prepare to take a rather large expedition to territories Balsan actually owns, but they don't control. Basically, it's been about 50 odd years, and it still doesn't have a full structure. There's still a resistance, if you will, that you're going to have to plan for. Speaking of, how are you going to go about dealing with that, knowing that there's a resistance that's housed up there?
Well, we have the Ministry of War providing guards and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like our best bet is just to make sure that the guards are being guards and making sure that nobody gets murdered. And then also to not really take a side on any kind of, ideals or anything like that. Like, just, I guess, lay low, not make yourself very present.
Okay.
Because if we walk over there and say, "Hey, we're with, we're with the not resistance. Screw you guys," then
Wow.
we're probably gonna make some enemies,
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Okay. So those couple of weeks go by, and you have to build a research team. Is there any people you have in mind that you would like to go and ask and or
Uh,
present to?
so I would like to ask both Baldovin Alfstral and Adelar, what was his last name? Banu, as well as checking notes here. So you'll have to give me a moment if that's all right.
You're good.
Suck at remembering names. Do. Good God, I have a lot of Google Docs.
It's okay. When you start doing the do, I start seeing a Nidoran going back and forth as the Pokemon intro starts.
All right, let's see. Scrolling down through names. Do. It would be down here. Okay. I would probably also ask a few of my friends from the academy besides Baldovin and Adelar. Those friends being Evelvin and Daedalus and Kepet.
Okay. Um. So the other three I'm very familiar with. So I'm fairly certain I'm not going to tell you no because
Mhm.
it's a ridiculous opportunity. When you go to talk to Baldovin, you find him. He's graduated at this point, just like you have, and you find him as a low-end functionary that is serving currently in the Ministry of Law at the direction of his mother.
Hmm.
When you finally figure out where he's at, it takes you a bit, but then you find out that you have to travel a little, and you end up in a smaller town uh, called Tulis. It's hi Norman.
Mhm.
Hello,
Hello, cat.
Kitty.
Hello, kitty.
Um, Tulis is a smaller town that you would have passed when you guys came up from Palmaris, coming up to the kingdom
Mhm.
on the west side or west roads. When you get there, the Ministry of Law that is there is not like a big, huge building or nothing like that. It is a two-story structure. It is situated roughly in the town center, much like it was at Palmaris. the structure itself is basically laid stone and mortar. There's these gray stones that have basically been stacked all over the place to build a structure for a wall. The supports for it are very much so like the timber crossings that would be like a mix of Old English style and French styles, with that like part of the second floor that sticks out over the stonework of the first floor.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Right. And then there's, for some ridiculous reason, they have a mill up on the top of it. So it's slowly turning up there.
That's weird.
So you're not sure what that's about. But the blades aren't made out of wood, they're actually made out of metals. And the fabric is still fabric. When you approach the building, there's not a lot of people, surprisingly, outside of just merchants going back and forth. A couple of, hey, get out of the way kind of things. Can I just cash this check? My duties are due to the landlords and my taxes are overpaid kind of, things occurring. As you walk into the building, it's got this laid stone tile work that's been polished, much like any other ministry law you've been in, and a series of podiums placed about the main floor with dozens of people at, various podiums talking to what would be a bank or law representative. The floor is clearly divided between the Balsan treasury, which would be the banking side, and then the function side for like, I need to get legal counsel and such. You find a couple that is sitting in front of one of the legal counsels. Look, I just want to divorce his drunk ass that just will not ever come home. He keeps telling me that, oh, I have to travel here. Oh, I have to travel there. And then I have this that arrived at my home with my kids while he wasn't home, asking when he was going to come see his children. And the guy's like, it was my brother. That was not me. Look at the name. Please read at least once. Look, it doesn't even say whatsoever on there my name. I insist. Not only does it have your name, she turns it over to a lawyer, and this goes on for a bit. Off to another side, another one seeking some form of counsel. I think I was scammed. I paid 130 gold.
Ugh,
And
that's
I bought this. I bought it for my wife. It's actually made out of fake things. And he's pulling out like this jewelry box.
got like fool's gold in it.
It's got a bunch of fake precious metals and gems in it. One of the gems is actually a piece of candy that somebody sealed. And he shows that it's like half rotted away from just the water he used as the example. And the lawyer is just going, what? kind of thing.
What am I supposed to do with this information? You got scammed. Deal with it.
Over on the banking side, there's this well-to-do, like uptight looking business person who's just tapping his foot and like knocking his cane at the same time against the side of the podium, as the banker has clearly walked away to do something that he's going to have to do, but the guy's just super impatient. And after a bit, he sees one of the other bankers coming by. I want to know when this will be done. I have other appointments and business to attend. So you're going to have to wait like anyone else. I will not wait. I have submitted my deposits. I am one of the most important people in this town. And this kind of crap goes on for a minute. And there's other examples of just business.
Yeah.
And you have no idea where Baldwin is.
Yeah. No, that checks out.
How do you go about solving that?
Hello. Hey, anyone? Just trying to get anyone's attention to see if they could help me out.
One of the stewards that's near the front area. There's people sitting in benches and some people that are standing there, and nobody's walked up to him. Um, I can help you over here, sir.
Thank you. Um, I'm looking for someone of high importance. Uh,
Oh,
one Baldovin Baldovin Elstrov.
wait. You're serious? Important. Okay, I'll take you to him. Sure. And he goes and starts walking down the side on the legal side,
Hmm.
and like turns after a bit, not sure if you were following him. Come now,
Yeah.
kind of thing. As you go down row and row of like, there's 6 offices, and the offices aren't like, they look like they're essentially with this frosted out glass that's been laid on the top parts of it, but otherwise the stonework still continues. There's wooden doors that do not have any window to them whatsoever, and there's nameplates that has been carved into the doors, um, or carved into a plate on the door, and it's like basically telling you who the individual is that works in there, and it's nothing more than like there's a couple investigators, there's a treasury person that's there, there's a few just magistrate lawyers that are there, and you finally get to the clerk's office where there is 8 functionary clerks in a room that does not have a door to it. It's just like a double wide space that you would walk into,
Hmm.
and they're all standing at wood desks with ledgers, writing back and forth, putting ledgers up on the sides of the desk or on carts and pulling them off carts, and manually writing on all of them while tabulating things or using a scale to figure out weights, measures, and things against the standards that the kingdom has. And Baldovin is one of those functionary clerks doing the
Okay.
most remedial of tasks. You're an
Baldovin,
important
long time
person.
no see.
Adret.
This looks incredibly boring.
Uh, um, why are you here now?
Because I would like to ask you, would you like to come freeze with me up in the north? It's certainly more interesting than this.
Freeze? I don't know if I'd want to freeze.
It is a wonderful opportunity because aside from freezing, you will actually be working on an expedition, and I am here to handpick you and other people potentially.
You mean my mother is okay with this?
I have no clue what your mother is okay with.
Oh dear. That
I
might cause problems.
I could talk with her.
No. If you go and talk to her about it, it then becomes a thing, and there'll be petitions, and I'll probably get talking to. Um,
Well, you might get
um,
caught talking to if you leave to the north without permission as well. I don't know your family business, all right? So
uh, how far north?
we are going to the once was territories of Zillertal.
You're going to the Fallen Kingdom?
Yes, by
Why?
request of King Albert.
Uh, uh, um, I suppose I can't turn that down. Mother would understand. Would you just shut up and go already? Sorry, bad timing. One of the other clerks, of course, just gives him
Yeah.
crap immediately. One of them crumples a piece of paper and throws it at him, like essentially telling him to shoo.
Yeah.
When one of the lawyers comes around and everything, Baldovin, I need that ledger now. The one on the second case brought in by the Curia regarding that witch trial. They insisted that this sorceress had become a witch, and I'm fairly certain the case is bunk, but I still need the ledgers, and I need that second report, version 3, and file folder 13 and 18.
I'm
Uh,
gonna try to get this guy's attention.
yeah, sure.
I just kind of and pull out a small sack of like 100 gold and say, "Hire someone else to do it. Baldwin is leaving."
Now, see here, who the hell are you?
My name is Adret Kara, and I have business with this man.
As you can tell, so do I.
I just kind of wave the gold bag again. Hmm? Hmm? Huh?
Do you know it's a crime to bribe an official of the Ministry of Law?
This is not a bribe. This is compensation. It's an investment.
Terry, go get the things I asked for. Baldwin, you're fired. He takes the coin back.
Awesome. I'm just gonna subtract that
Well,
from my gold.
fired?
Don't worry, we'll find you a better job.
Okay. I guess I'm gonna go with you.
Don't
Mother
worry,
hopefully isn't mad.
we've packed plenty of fur coats. You won't actually freeze.
Well, that's good. I didn't want to freeze. I will have to get something from Mother before we go, and I don't really want to.
I can go in your stead if you'd like.
It's putting you out too much. I'll take care of it. I promise. When are we meeting?
I checked the note that I have. When are we meeting?
It's like almost a month out.
Okay. So I relayed that information to him.
Okay. Mother will understand. Research. Important work for the king. And he starts to like walk beside you as you're leaving, repeating similar versions of that same statement. He's trying to convince himself that his family will understand what he's doing, specifically his mother.
Poor Valdovin, man. He deserves better.
Brilliant minds are not necessarily very strong. So you have successfully recruited Baldovin at the expense of his job.
He'll get over
All
it.
right. Who else?
The other one was our good lizard companion Adelar.
So he's easily found since he still works for the academy.
Mm-hmm.
You find that he doesn't have an office of his own. He's basically working with a couple others while he does specialized research. He's essentially getting paid to do while working under one of the actual professors of the school, while presently teaching occasionally classes here and there, mostly on theory and dynamics of magic. It's all very rudimentary basics of, why you have to have verbal components, why there's physical things to entice things, all that stuff. Like he's teaching people that barely know level 1 spells to level 3 at best.
All right.
When you first arrive at the academy, going through its gorgeous marble halls and pruned gardens and way too many effigies of Gabor and this woman that they insist is one of the founders, but don't ever tell you who it is, and didn't the entire time you were in school and never acknowledge it.
Fun.
But it's very reminiscent of a certain woman you saw in statue form on the island. So you could
She
probably
must
put two
be
and two together.
important. Yeah.
I mean, she's shows up in all these icons, only nobody will tell you who it is. No forbidden books even record who it is, which is really odd. But as you're passing through the academy, you come across where his office is at, and there's two people in there working. Neither of them are him whatsoever, because they're human.
Mm-hmm.
Or human looking, I should say. Everybody's human looking for the most part if they're not humans. So you don't know where he's at, but you have these two.
He would count as a professor,
right? He's a little bit lower than that. He's technically a lecturer at this point.
All right. Give me one moment. So I get their attention. I say, "Good afternoon."
Oh, hello. Can I help you? Is there not one of my students? Says the one male that's in the room.
Oh, no, I no longer attend this school. I'm looking for Lecturer Banu.
He's currently in class. Um, he's in the what hall is he in? Goes and looks in his looks over on the board that they have there and looks at. Oh yes, sorry. He's in the Alabaster Hall in classroom A3 from the looks of things. It's a pretty big class. I don't know if you're gonna want to go to the class or just wait for him afterwards.
I'll just wait afterward. It would be impolite for me to interrupt.
You're welcome to wait here if you really want to, but there's also a teacher's lounge. I assume you're alumni, so at this point, nobody would really know the difference. If you want to use it, it's down the hall, 3 doors on the left side.
Sure, thank you.
So
I
you
start
head
to
down
head
to
to
the
the
lounge.
yeah to the lounge.
Okay. And it's the usual kind of thing. There's a couple of tables that are set up in there. There's a rack with pre-purchased, mostly baked goods for teachers to partake in that are bought by the academy. Um, there's a small cooling box where they will keep some forms of refreshments. Most of it is just chilled water, but there's also like some fruit juices and stuff like that that's there. There's two snifters that are there with spirit each in them. One very brown, one very close to clear, but not quite. Um, Teachers have hard days. They go ahead and they drink a little, right?
Hmm.
Make a cocktail with the fruit juice. Who knows? Um, Past that, there's just like some simple entertainment things that are left in there. There's multiple newspapers from various days. Clearly, nobody's cleaned out everything, in a minute or two. And on like a couple of racks are personal effects, like a cloak or a coat, possibly a parasol, something like that.
All right.
Very basic.
Adret is gonna drop 2 gold in front of like on the counter next to the refreshments and grab a fruit juice
Okay.
and then also grab a newspaper and just start to read while he waits.
It's about an hour or so before he comes looking for you. And eventually, Adelar comes in. As he comes in, you see what you now know as for quite a while as a friend. He is a very white, uh, scaled skinned lizardman, much like yourself. The big major differences being that he has a dress frill that kind of it performs a real function. It's a heating and cooling system for your species,
Hmm.
or at least his side of the species needs it. But it kind of drapes down the sides of his head a bit and kind of appears like hair if somebody's not really paying attention. But the reality, of course, is that it's just there. He has very prominent, elongated ear canals that seem to be reinforced by like this small bits of like chitinous material. It's very durable. If somebody were to strike it, you might risk shattering it if he let you hit him in the head, of course. But nonetheless, he has those. He doesn't actually have any horns of any kind. Those are the closest he gets to it. Some of the species, of course, would have spines and things like that, but his doesn't have it. And
Hmm.
he has this development that happens around the lower end of his jaw that seems to be very similar, but it's much more flexible and pliable. That gives the impression he has a mustache because it drapes down a bit past his muzzle of his
Nice.
jaw, but it's not enough to be just there. It seems like it actually performs like a whisker like function for his side of the species. He's from a tribe that you're not really familiar with. He explained a long time ago. He's from the western areas, well past Neuron. And as you're already aware, he's a pseudo orphan in the sense that his tribe fell apart and the kingdom saved most of it. But he carries a mark with him all the time. He wears basically a scholar's coat instead of a cloak or anything. And because of this, he also keeps a series of like medals, but they're not like honorary medals. They're just like pins that have stones embedded into them that have some sort of religious significance to his tribe. And one of them has a piece of the eggshell he was hatched from. And the
Hmm.
eggshell that his sibling, that he explained a long time ago, unfortunately perished when he uh, basically got caught by the elements, much to the dismay and because of the Naga pressures that were caused. You know, his tribe's definitely seen a lot more hardship than yours has, but his hatred of Naga is way, way lower than yours. It's
Well,
weird. It's almost like he's been beaten so badly by them, he doesn't even fear them anymore. He now just assumes that they're dominant.
I wouldn't say Adret hates the Naga. He hates Aquila. Uh, but he has, if you remember, he has tried to set up good relations between him and yeah.
Fair, fair. Um, in his conversation, anytime he ever talks about the Naga, it's always in submissive tones. It's like he knows that the philosophy and ideas of his tribe lost to them, and he had to
That
go to
is
someone that didn't agree with them at all
that is
for
so
safety.
unfortunate.
But otherwise, he's a pretty smart person by your gauge. Very dedicated, and that's the friend you find in front of you.
Adelar, been a little while. How are you?
I am doing pretty well, Adret. It is good to see you in the skin.
Hmm. I want to make things short here. Get to business, if you will. Um,
Certainly.
how occupied are you with your teaching?
Uh, Classes for the semester will wrap up in uh, 14 days, 16 days. Sorry.
And
Then
after
there's 2 month break usually.
2 month break, would you perhaps be able to extend that break to much longer and get someone else to teach in your stead? I have an opportunity that I'd like to invite you to.
That might depend on the opportunity there, Adret.
Well, to be more specific, under request of King Albert, I am being sent on an expedition to the north, to the territories of Zillital, in order to study certain things there. And I've been asked to put together a research team, handpicked by myself. And you, of course, are a consideration.
I am taken aback in flattery. Well, I suppose I could get someone to teach in the next year. My benefactors wouldn't oppose research. It's official, yes?
It is official.
You don't have to pull my tail. I'm in.
Wonderful. That was a lot easier than the last one.
Who was the
Uh,
last one?
I am sure you recall Baldwin.
The one that cried off and on after finals.
Yes, that Baldwin. Um,
Hmm.
he's not where I thought he would be in life. He was
Smart
working,
kid.
yeah, he was working in a position in the Ministry of Law that was very menial, very demeaning, in my opinion, very boring. Um, I got him fired, so good stuff, good stuff.
You got him fired. Well, it seems you gave him a step up in life.
I would say so.
By chance, his family isn't aware yet?
Most likely not. He said he would talk to his mother, but if he does or if he doesn't,
Smart.
not on me.
Some hatchlings never learned that their independence started when they first started eating anything.
Truly. If I were still entirely dependent on my family, then I would not be here now, and I would be stuck in my tribe.
I do miss mine, but the work here is important. It sounds like yours would be more important. And It may be lucrative enough to buy us some land. If nothing else, leverage
Well,
afterwards.
I'm sure there will be plenty of. Norman, can you stop? You know what he's doing to me right now. I move my arm to touch my keyboard, and he is gnawing at it. Let let go, you little demon. Ah,
uh,
um,
Cats are fun.
yeah, I love him. All right, as I was saying, where was I? I'm sure there will be more than enough monetary opportunity with this. After all, I've been given quite the stipend to fund the expedition, so sure something will come of it.
Hmm. Well, he will not be king forever, but his influence will be valuable. And working on something that may be royally supported certainly would go somewhere. Either way,
It is.
you can count on me.
Thank you. It is about a month out now.
And with Sanitas's blessing, we will get far.
Indeed. Someone else said it. Yay!
He believes in it too.
Yeah, I'm not alone.
Now we just got to get him to start doing Sanitas guide.
Yeah.
He's not a cleric though, so there's that issue.
Hmm.
Okay, so you have Adelar. You
Hmm.
have
Baldwin.
Baldwin. You know the military has joined you. Your other three will be no issue to bring along,
All right.
as their level of research where they're working is way lower than what you're asking.
Hmm.
They're going to be just as same as Adelar. Be like, better opportunity, we quit and just go for it.
Yeah.
Past that, is there anything specific you want to prepare?
Um, Nothing I can think of off the top of my head. I think we've got the people I had in mind. Two of them
Mhm.
being newly introduced to me because of the document, but still very cool characters so far. I think that's all. Yeah.
Okay. So the time preparing for the expedition passes swiftly with all the work that you have to do. But the day does arrive, and when it does arrive, you are for the first time confronted with your former um what's the right word for it? Aggressor's not hard enough for it. Uh Attempted murderers.
I mean, but I already came to terms with that when I started working with Adriana. I was like, water under the bridge. You shot me in the face. I threw you off a ledge, you know?
Fair enough, fair enough. The women seem no worse for wear. Of time hasn't changed them at all. They
All
look the
right.
exact same. The sleek black hair, the sharp young features, uh, the white uniforms with that slight black and in this case gold trim now. But otherwise, they seem the same. They all carry the nice rifle you recall. All four of them carry it, in addition to a sidearm um, and a blade of some kind. They have simple drawstring packs slung over their shoulders that they're carrying, and they seem almost like they're going on a just hiking trip with the way they're kind of presenting themselves. If they're carrying their entire lives in a bag that is just barely bigger than a couple of feet long, and by maybe 2 foot in diameter at most, like a sports style drawstring bag,
Hmm.
they don't have much in the way of travel to take with them, or life for that matter, to pack up and move. Uh, the other soldiers are much more laden down with gear. None of them are really wearing anything too crazy. They're all packed up with cold weather equipment. You can clearly see the furs around their collars and around their wrists and their legs. You can see the thick boots that are meant for dealing with water and inclement weather, as well as the temperatures. They have notches for climbing. Every one of them has like this little piece that they have on one of their hands that basically protects the palm, but also would provide extra grip to their hands. It seems to be not like climber. It's kind of like how climber gloves have that padding to protect you if you don't go
Hmm.
barehanded from like sharp rocks. or possibly on the backside like striker gloves for sparring. So
Okay.
there's padding on the back of them too. Um, you've seen stuff like this before. They probably have a very minor spirit in the gloves to keep their hands warm
All
of
right.
some kind. Past that, they all pretty much are carrying a sidearm of some kind, usually a sword, club, axe, something like that, and then they all carry a polearm, whether it be a halberd or spears, off and on changes. Um, their baggage is literally on wheels, as they're all pulling small wagons with stuff in it. That the wagons get left behind, but they're loading multiple packs into the wagon. Whereas the four women aren't doing anything of the sort. They just kind of toss it up on the top, jump up there, and they sit in a line as if they're going to lead the wagon that's for them. Two Magitech engineers also come with. They remind you a bit of Alden for a moment, but Alden, of course, was more free spirited about his appearance and whatnot. These
Yeah.
guys are all like military cut it. They're wearing military outfits, but otherwise still have all the gear that Alden would have all the time, like the crates of stuff that's clearly marked and whatnot. And they start loading that in the wagon that was meant for like the portable labs and stuff like that.
All right.
As your research people arrive intermittently throughout this entire process, they all just kind of start mingling and talking about what's really going to happen and what they're expecting and who knows what. And of course, most of them only have a cursory understanding of the actual expedition's intentions, and they think they're just traveling from city to city and that's it. And they're going to
Oh boy.
research from this other city. They don't really get a full scope of the risk.
Yeah, it's gonna be cold, and there's gonna be the resistance.
So as they all gather, you get a couple of people that come and bring food provisions that are uh, guild purveyors, things like that. You'll get barrels and crates just laden down with mostly non-perishables or things that would last. And you get 6 hunters that come with.
Hmm.
They join the military group, but they are clearly hired hunters. When your friends arrive, have the two from the school already met the other three?
Well, the other three were also at the school, so probably.
Okay. So then they probably become like an old friends group real quick and start chatting up things if they get along to start with.
Hmm.
And you're all ready to go. But what you gonna tell all of them? Because they definitely collectively know different intentions.
Um, I mean, I feel like I'd probably go over sort of bare bones stuff that Albrecht had talked about. Like, oh, here we're gonna do a little bit of this, do a little bit of that. Try not to do this, try not to do that. That kind of thing.
Okay. Um, do me a favor. Give me an idea of what that sounds like, so we can do a performance check.
Okay, so like in character idea, what that sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Norman, can you? He's in the way so much. He's just a kitty cat. He's just a kitty cat. All right, get down.
Gonna retitle the episode "Cats." That's it.
All right, here we go. So, sorry, Zach just said something funny. All right. So, Adret, he gets up next to all of them and says, "So, King Albrecht is quite interested in, well, the manner of how and why for things. And in this case, what we're starting out looking at is crystals that are mined uh, just outside of Merfin. These crystals can be used to bind spirits, and mathematically they work wonders compared to a lot of very convoluted and complicated machines that Balsan is used to making. Um, so we understand that they do that, but Albert wants us to understand why they do that, and perhaps how we can manipulate these crystals to better serve us. Additionally, we will be dealing with potentially the resistance out up north, so do your best to not make yourself a nuisance, and I think we'll just be just fine. We have plenty of muscle to keep us safe if anything goes wrong. How's that?
Yeah, go ahead and make that performance check with advantage.
Yippee! All
First
right.
roll of the episode, an hour
First,
in.
first roll of the episode, and it's advantage, but -1. Whoa, okay, that first roll is a fat 0.
Did you roll a 1?
I did. The second roll is a total of 11.
Oh, okay. So you get the point across. Everybody seems to understand it. Nobody's particularly off put or, gassed up like they're ready to go, but nobody is bailing on you or anything like that.
Okay.
So
Good. I'm glad that
everybody
I
got
didn't roll the 0 and then everyone leaves.
you roll a 0 and be like, on second thought, this sounds dangerous, and a couple of them walk away. But nobody walks away.
Okay.
Um, one of the female soldiers walks up to you. I believe it is important to convey the wishes of our, what is the right word? Benefactor. Not the king. The one that is supporting us. She kind of lowers her voice a bit on this one. I'm fairly certain you remember what happened a few years ago in regards to some of the vicars and the relationship with the Corpse Knights.
I am quite familiar.
It is important that we inform you, as the leader of this expedition, of general intelligence that we have acquired. The number one suspect to everything, and one of the largest enemies of the kingdom, Leah Bell, is known to occasionally operate out of Marvin. We don't know in what capacity or anything of the like, but it does mean we need to be aware that she could be there. And if she can be there, any of her soldiers can be as well. While it's fine to mention the resistance, it is best not to give it a character as much as we can. There are two strains of the resistance that intelligence has suggested. One is not so violent. One is definitely seeking more amenities and proper reconciliations for the people of the former kingdom. Basically, they're a form of rights activists that are militant when needed. They haven't turned into a full-blown rebellion or anything like that. So we do appreciate the neutral stance that you have taken. It is very diplomatic of you.
Thank you. I think it is more effective if we make ourselves like the citizens of Mirfin. After all, the resistance wouldn't attack the citizens, right?
They would not. The Corpse Knights would. Be cautious in how friendly you get one way or the other with them, because the Corpse Knights will take notice. We can
Understood.
look and act the parts. We can't become it. My secondary orders are to meet with the barracks and assess the risk levels the Corpse Knights provide. We may be temporarily reassigned, and other soldiers from the barracks will be assigned to you. Should that occur, please do not leave the city itself. That way the barracks has the maximum amount of support it can provide. Mind you, this is a little premature, as it's going to take us nearly a month to get there with this number of people trekking through the valleys.
Well, it's better safe than sorry, so this much is appreciated.
Good. And Adret, we've obviously let go of any history we may have possessed regarding the individual that unfortunately um, is no longer with us. It is important to understand that we convey an understanding. We were working a job, and in this case, we are doing the same. We will not treat you as a hostile or an enemy of any kind. You are our ally, and we will treat you as such.
Do not worry, I am not concerned of anything else. I have already let all that has happened in the past go. I think that oftentimes people can be on separate sides without having to be enemies.
We view things similarly. We will be ready momentarily. And she spins on her heel and starts going over to prep the last of the military requirements.
Alright. Mister, get out of here.
He just insisted, like, all cats love warm keyboards, and monitors seem to radiate sunshine for all of them.
Yeah, well, he loves being up on the desk.
As you go to leave and you go through the gates, having prepared the wagons at the base floor instead of way up by an estate that someone did in a previous episode, uh, you don't have to wait hours to get out of the city.
Awesome.
It takes you about 20 minutes, and it's mostly simple delays of just logistics of moving as many people as you have.
Mhm.
Um, give or take, the entire entourage is about 30 odd strong. You have 12 wagons in total with the military support that they provided, in addition to what you would have already purchased yourself,
Mhm.
which I think, is my math right? Bringing to is that 11 wagons total?
Well, you said for me to buy two wagons.
Yeah, they're bringing a couple too. Yeah, I think you have 11 in total.
Okay.
And one of them is nothing but a parts carrier. It's all it's there for. It's
Mhm.
fixing the others. Um, every wagon has 4 of these horses on it as well, and they're pretty heavy duty horses. They're basically Clydesdales. They're very
Ooh,
similar to
nice,
Clydesdales.
nice.
So heavy war horses, if you will, but on a steroid level. Where they got the horses doesn't really matter. They exist. They're just very expensive and kept in specific hands. But you start traveling, and 3 or 4 days in, you hit your first actual snag. It's not a big one, since you're leaving in the middle spring. The snow melt has made things way better. Your first snag is snow melt means the creeks and small rivers come back alive. Traveling outside of Balsan, going into the Northern Territories is a true change in scenery. You go from low mountains that have much more um, varieties of life. So you have a mixture of dense forests and thin bed forests. Valleys will be plains style grasses that may stretch for a bit in the hills, farmlands and stuff like that. Whereas this is more true wilderness. There's wildflowers everywhere growing. There's grasses that have never been kept. The snow is the only thing that keeps them down, like as it comes through each year. The terrain is incredibly uneven, except for this stone road that has large carved pieces that have been inset multiple feet into the ground and laid out as if it's been there for a very long time. The stonework has been washed by repeated amounts of water going over it, so most of it's been smoothed off. The wagons don't even affect it, but they do make this very audible clack sound, as do the horses' hooves, which sound like they're tap dancing on a hardwood floor almost. Uh, the mountains themselves are gorgeous. They spire up into the sky to such a degree that you have to actually look up to see the sky itself. Otherwise, you see snow-capped peaks with this cascading brownish multitude of stone that changes, and then eventually a tree line.
That's
The,
cool.
the creeks and rivers that you come across, initially the creeks aren't a big deal, but the river you come across isn't all that big, being only about 7 feet wide. And being called a river is very generous, but it is 10 feet deep, as there's a gouge that goes through, and the bridge is gone. mostly it's been crushed into powder, most likely from an avalanche.
All right.
How do you handle this challenge?
I am doing a think.
Okay.
Well, I myself don't have anything on my person that could remedy this, so I instead default to manpower, and I try to run the logistics of making some kind of makeshift bridge, perhaps.
Okay. Um, so it's your choice how you want to go about this. You can use performance to lead people. You could use nature to kind of inform them as to what would be the best materials if you're going to harvest it from the environment. Survival if you want to help them actively do it.
All right,
Um,
I'll probably do survival then.
okay.
Survival. All right, that is a dirty 20.
Hey, there you go. So it takes you a few hours to get all the raw materials you need, and you do end up losing a full day's travel with this, but you do manage to reconstruct enough of the bridge to be functional for what you need and reset the pylons that would support it into the ground itself, rebury it, and have the water pack not interfere and wash it back out.
All right.
The next day, you start moving as normal, having had to set up camp before you make use of it, and you travel for almost a full week, and you come across a stopping place called the Lieberwolf.
Oh,
The
Hunawana?
Lieberwolf, the Lieberwolf.
All right, how do you spell that?
Uh, I've got to bring that back up. Locations. Nothing like adding stuff. L-I-B, L-I-E-B, sorry.
L-I-E-B
E-R,
E-R
W-U-L-F.
W-U-L-F. All right.
So this lodge-like structure is actually 6 different buildings kind of brought together and a few other auxiliary buildings present, and a primary building that acts like an inn, a tavern, and a rest. The place is incredibly beautiful to look at because it's got a bunch of flowers in and around it. There's some horses that are on the side. Clearly, a merchant wagon, a 2-wheel merchant wagon has been pulled up to there and stuff like that. And it's a stopover. It doesn't act as a town, but it does act as a place to provision, as a place to rest, or have some semblance of civilization and trade.
All right.
And it's built into the side of the mountain itself. So you actually have to go up the a channel road that goes up to it. My hands are going off the camera. But the wagons can easily do it. It just takes a half hour to go up that road.
Okay.
You can also ignore it and just keep going.
I'd say it's probably best if our group takes a rest there.
Okay. When you go inside, who goes in with you?
I would say probably the the Ingora and Natil.
Okay. There's a woman that's probably 5-6 months along. She's got a large frock that she's essentially wearing with a apron piece that goes over. She has a large apron and a frock. Do we hear me? Test 1. Logan, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Sorry. I thought I lost connection there for a second. So anyway, so she's in a large frock and apron. She's, like I said, a couple of months along with child. There's another child that's kind of playing over on a rug near a table. And there's a couple of large leather style couches that are sitting there. There's a double hearth that's just burning away in the day. Some nice smells have been coming from it since you walked in the door. And she sees you come in, realizes you're probably travelers that want to stay, and moves behind a desk that's been set up that isn't all that big. On the other side of the desk from the what would be essentially a large sitting area with a hearth and whatnot is a series of restaurant style heavy wood tables with about 8 chairs to each one, and they're long style tables, not rounds,
Okay.
with no head for any of them. The reasoning is a little unknown, but it's like that. Yes, what are we going to be doing?
That is my normal voice.
It's okay, I'm not going to do that again because that was so concerning to me in my ear.
I've got around 50 people I would like to lodge here.
Can do that. For how long?
I would say probably 3 days. We've been traveling for a good while.
Sounds good. I can put you in buildings 4 and 5, or I can move you out to the 3 auxiliaries. It's your choice. The expense difference for that many people, and she kind of like does this whole. So we usually charge about a silver a day for food and lodging per person, unless it's in numbers in excess of 10, then we charge 5 copper a day, and we usually put you guys in put multiple people in a single room. I'm assuming your people don't mind sleeping and arranging themselves for the next couple of days together.
We do not mind.
Okay, so putting that math together, the auxiliary buildings, was that 5 times 50 would be about 25 gold a day, roughly. If you want to do the other one, it'd be about double that.
So 150 in total then.
Yes.
All right. Here. And I take out 150 and hand it over to her.
Mama, that's a big lizard. Is it friendly? This little kid's kind of like peeking around. It's got like little, slightly dirty hands that kids tend to have.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, maybe you guess 2-ish, and it momentarily makes you reminded of when you first met Anna, even though that child is slightly younger.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of like these big eyes, just kind of like looking you up and down, and it doesn't know what it wants to think of you yet.
Yes, this lizard is quite friendly. How are you, little one?
Eep, and then hides behind the desk for a moment and kind of slowly peeks back out. You're really big.
And you are quite small.
Are you slimy?
No, I am not that kind of lizard.
Can I touch you?
He looks over to the
Kinda does the-
mom. He looks over to the mom and just kind of shrugs, like. Adret kind of just crouches down and extends out his hand.
Oh, you're really dry and bumpy.
This is accurate, yes.
Why do you have like nails that are like the triangles that I put in the wood puzzle?
It is because my creator has seen fit to bless me with these nails. Just the same way. They are for digging.
Oh. Wait a second. Runs over, you get the like her little wood thing that she's got. Comes over with 2 of the little elongated pyramids.
Mm-hmm.
And looks at her mom for a moment. Tape.
Oh, God.
Mother hands her some tape, and she just starts badly taping these to her fingers. It's a mess. I have them now too. I can go dig outside.
That is up to your mother.
Oh, These feel weird. Do yours feel weird?
Not to me, no, but I suppose to others they would.
Why is your mouth so big?
Adret's not at all offended. He just doesn't know how to respond. Because I eat bad people who are evil.
You eat people. Man, that's like the tribes out. Huh.
By people, I mean boogeymen. I eat boogeymen.
The monsters? You eat monsters with that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, maybe you can get rid of the weird bear up in the South Mountains.
There's a bear?
There is. Mom, I told you about it, right? It's big and white, and I swear the thing keeps like making weird sounds. It doesn't look like a bear, and it certainly doesn't sound like one. Oh, honey, come on now. I'm fairly certain that he has some very important things to do, and if he has time, he'll go and look into the bear. Oh, I mean, I guess.
No, I'd
Mister,
like
Mister.
to
Oop, go
go
ahead.
on. I was just going to say I'd like to hear more about this bear.
The mother basically kind of like holds the child against her for a second so it doesn't go running away, though it's starting to struggle a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there's been off and on sightings of a bear that seems to be a bit aggressive to some of the travelers. It's a little bit larger than most of the ones we had seen before. Usually the ones that are here kind of like a, I don't know, like a spruce brown kind of look. And they're pretty big things. I mean, they get as big as small horses. But this one's kind of looking out the window, a little bigger than your horses.
Hmm.
And it's mostly white, but most of the tales keep talking about this thing having weird black stripings on it. Not inconsistent ones. So it's not like somebody, I don't know. It's not like a chipmunk or nothing kind of stripes. It's always like a weird random pattern on it.
Well, I suppose I could certainly look into this, if it will help others.
I I don't know if it comes out in, at this time of year. I mean, I assume it would, but there hasn't been any recent ones. It usually comes out in the winter. Maybe it sleeps in the spring.
This is decently likely, but any more information about where I could find it while it is resting?
Sure, sure. And she pulls out this very bad map, but it's what they have.
Mhm,
And it kind of shows like this little structure of a citadel that shows where Balsan itself's at.
mhm.
And then it shows um, a couple of marks that seem to be just pins in it, though they've been drawn into it. One of the pins has the name of the Libra Wolf that's there. Um, there's another one that's marked off to the east, and it's just got like this angry looking face and like a raw looking hands, along with a series of like odd tents. They look like cylinders that somebody took a dome and put on top of it, but they're kind of flat domed. But they're big from the in appearance comparison to like in the mountains.
Mhm.
And you guess that it's probably like a settlement or maybe even a small city, and it just says the Banabu.
The Banabu, okay. Writing that down.
And I can't tell you how to spell it because it was written poorly on the page to begin with.
I'm gonna just put it however it sounds.
Whoever
B-A-N.
wrote or drew the map is probably not fully they're probably not fully literate.
Ah. Um, I think that'd probably be all before we head off to our rooms now, but I did have one more thing to ask.
Oh, go ahead.
Roughly how dangerous has this bear been reported to be?
In the wintertime, we'd probably hear about an attack once or twice a season. Maybe once during fall. I've not heard of any in the spring. Summer, there's plenty of sightings. So 3, maybe 4 a year. It's been going on now for about 2 years.
But is it deadly in the sense that it will slaughter a man or several men, or is it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. One of the instances, it destroyed the carts, ate the horses, and dragged off the men. We only found the evidence because the carts and the horse bodies were there.
I will have to think on this. Thank you, however. I'm glad to help where I can, and if I can remedy this issue, I will.
Okay. She gives you keys to the room and everything. You stay for a couple of days, and you're all set to travel again.
During those days, I would turn to the twins and ask them their thoughts about this bear.
If they could track it, killing it may be worth it, but if what she's saying is true, they don't think you could find it in the springtime.
All right. In that case, if we can't find it, I'm gonna do one thing, and then if that doesn't work, then oopsie doopsie. So going up around where it's located on the
Mhm.
map, I'd kind of bring the caravan there, and I would cast Detect Spirits to see if I could maybe ask the spirits for aid in finding it.
So spirits will respond, and they will explain to you that this creature actually steps from the spiritual world into the physical world twice a year. And the reason
Mm,
it's not here is it's literally not here.
okay. Well, I'll keep this in mind for later. But with that, I think we'd continue heading our way up north.
Okay. A couple more weeks pass, and you finally arrive, passing another small settlement, stopping there briefly. You do arrive at Marfin. You're able to establish a camp, and you meet a man who very quickly greets the group after letting you settle a bit and things like that, named Eskil. Eskil is a middle-aged man with loose kept but medium length brown chestnut style hair. He seems to be in the cloaks of the ministries might use, but has no distinction to any ministry that you've ever heard or seen.
Okay.
In addition to the fact that it's designed to be cold weather. You find the average temperatures here in the springtime are in the 50s during the day. They'll drop probably 10, 15 degrees at night unless you go up in the mountains themselves. And Eskil basically helps you all establish. He explains to you that he is the defunct Wigroff of the city, whatever that matters much, but it does make him the pseudo mayor.
Okay.
Um, if you need anything, feel free to go ahead and talk to him. Or otherwise, he's also the head of the local guild authority as well, so he can help you out there. You do find out after a course of a couple of days, he is not a Balsan citizen. He is actually a resident from this city, and his lineage goes well back in the Zillertal itself.
Was this guy introduced before?
Briefly.
Okay. Because I
Um,
remember him, or I remember someone that kind of fits his description in one of the previous sessions talking to Adret, talking to me about a corpse night in the area.
if it was when you were up at Marfin and we were doing the little bit with the researchers, then yes, it's the
That
same
was
guy.
him? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
It's
Over,
just I don't have my physical notes on me, on my
that's fine.
digital notes, so yeah.
So connecting the 2 points together over the next year or two, you and him become very professionally close.
Okay.
if you choose to end up becoming friends with him. We'll see how that goes in the long run. But
I
Eskill is a
probably don't choose to become exactly friends with him based off of the warnings I received earlier about not getting too close with the people.
okay. If nothing else, Eskill is a very genial individual. It's very easy to work with him. He does get a lot of things done. He's very frank when he can't do something or it would harm something. He's very good at helping you navigate the land, teaching your trackers where hunting is most ideal, assuming they want to still continue to individually hunt. He is your primary contact for the mines themselves, though the Lucent company basically mines the mine, and they have connections to a to Balsan guilds. Um, Past that, the barracks does end up supporting you at one point. About a year and a half in, the special unit that was given to you, the four women,
Hmm.
do go hunting after somebody, but they come back and tell you that they failed to capture whoever it was and that they need to report. And then they go back to serving the expedition as normal.
Okay.
And that sets you up in Marfin to basically get you there and how you got there. So this is basically the intent for our episode heading north, or northward bound, I should say.
All right.
And before we close out, do you have any final things you wanted to do or anything like that?
No, I'm just kind of riding along with whatever you got planned because I'm enjoying it. So,
Okay, awesome, awesome. Alrighty, so then that is going to conclude what is going to be our Northward Bound episode. And where and how did Adret get to the north? You now
yep.
know. He'll be bringing with him a small cast of new characters you all will get to meet over time. Otherwise, we want to thank you very much for coming. Enjoy watching the show with us. Be sure to comment on there, like, follow us. You can find us under TOGGDM or TOGG on Instagram, in addition to subscribing if you're watching through YouTube or through Twitch. Um, However, you wish to keep followers and notifications. We appreciate you watching, and we will see you next time on Magnus Aevum.
Bye
Bye.
bye.